Oh, yes.
That's what the way we wanted it.
Here we are. My name is Helen Lake, and I live here in Eugene, Oregon, and have done for most of my married life. I'm the great-great-granddaughter of Amanda Barnesmith, who was very much involved in the Hans Mill Massacre. This is Amanda Barnesmith speaking. We sold our beautiful home in Kirtland for a song and traveled all summer to Missouri, our team poor, and with hardly enough to keep body and soul together. 2 days before we arrived, we were taken prisoners by an armed mob that had demanded every bit of ammunition, every weapon we had. A few miles beyond that, they were brought to Hans Mill, where the murder was enacted. Brother David Evans made a treaty with the mob that they would not molest us. And he came just before the massacre and called the company together, and they knelt in prayer. He says, I sat in my tent. Looking up, suddenly I saw the mob coming, the same that took away our weapons. They came like demons or wild Indians, and before I could get to the blacksmith shop to alarm the brethren who were at prayer, the bullets were whistling amongst them. I seized my 2 little girls and escaped across the mill pond on a slab walk. Another sister fled with me, yet though we were women and with tender children in flight, the demons poured volley after volley to kill us. A number of the bullets entered my clothes, but I was not wounded. And the sister, however, who was with me, cried out that she was hit. We had just reached the trunk of a fallen tree, over which I urged her, bidding her to shelter there where the bullets could not reach her, while I continued to flight to the bottomland. Passing on, I came to a scene more terrible still. To the mother and wife emerging from the blacksmith shop was my oldest son, bearing on his shoulder his little brother, Alma. Oh, my Alma is dead, I cried in anguish. No, Mother, I think Alma is not dead, but Father and Brother Sardius have been killed. What answer was this to my appeal to me? My husband and son murdered, one little son seemingly mortally wounded, and perhaps before the dreadful night should pass, the murderers would return and complete their work. But I could not weep. The fountain of tears was dried, the heart overburdened with the calamity of all. The entire hip joint of my wounded boy had been shot away. Flesh, hip bone, joint, and all had been plowed out from the muzzle of a gun which the ruffian had placed in the child's hip, through the logs of the shop, and deliberately fired. We laid little Alma on a bed in our tent and examined the wound, and it was a ghastly sight. Oh, my heavenly Father, I cried, what shall I do? Thou seest my poor wounded boy, and knowest my inexperience. Direct me what to do. And then I was directed, as by a voice speaking to me. The ashes of our fire were still smoldering. I was directed to take those ashes, make a lye, and put a cloth saturated with it right into the wound. It hurt, but little Alma was too near dead to heed it much. Again and again I saturated the cloth and put it into the hole from which the hip joint had been plowed, and each time the mashed flesh and splinters of bone came with the cloth, and the wound became as white as chicken's flesh. Having done as directed, I again prayed to the Lord and again was instructed, as distinctly as though a physician had been standing by and speaking to me. Nearby was a slippery elm tree. From this I was told to make a slippery elm poultice and fill the wound with it. And the poultice was made, and the wound, which took fully a quarter of a yard of linen to cover, so large was it, it was properly dressed. I removed the wounded boy to a house some distance off the next day, and I dressed his hip. The Lord directed me as before, and I was reminded that in my husband's trunk there was a bottle of balsam. This I poured into the wound, greatly soothing Alma's pain. Alma, my child, I said, you believe that Lord made your hip? Yes, Mother. Well, the Lord can make something there in the place of your hip. Don't you believe that he can, Alma? Do you think that the Lord can, Mother? Replied the child. Yes, my son. He has shown it all to me in a vision. Then I laid him comfortably on his face and said, now lay like that and don't move, and the Lord will make you another hip. So Alma laid on his face for 5 weeks until he was entirely recovered. A flexible gristle having grown in place of the missing joint and socket, which remains to this day a marvel to physicians. On the day that he walked again, I was out of the house fetching a bucket of water when I heard the screams from the children. Running back, very frightened, I entered there, and there was Alma on the floor dancing around, and the children surrounding him in astonishment and joy. It has nearly been 40 years ago, but Alma has never at the least been crippled during his life, and he has traveled quite a long period of time as a missionary. The Lord had kept his word. That soul who on Jesus had lain for repose, I will not desert to its foes. That soul, though all hell should endeavor to shake, I'll never, no never forsake.